welcome to another up close video. Today's one is looking at the magnetic crafters platform from Tonic. It's launching today, so I'll put a link to it below the video in case you want to get one. But I thought I would just do this quick video, just kind of walking you through it so you could actually see what it was like and stuff, and letting you know like how strong the magnets are and how many magnets come with it, or if you can buy them individually, and testing it with kind of ink blending tools and brushes and stuff as well. I have already been playing with it a few times with spray inks like the sparkle sprays, and also with expanding mousse, and that works brilliantly. The magnets hold your card and stencil perfectly in place for you to be able to scrape a spatula over the top of it and to just spray inks through it. But I wanted to show you the ink blending through it as well, because I haven't actually tried it with ink blending yet. So basically it comes in a cardboard sleeve like this, similar to the sleeves that your die sets come in now, and it has the gorgeous picture on the front. And you also get two magnets included, which are, they protrude out of this little area here, and you can also buy the spare magnets as well. So I had a 2-pack from the actual platform, and then I had a spare packet as well. You just get 2 magnets on there too, but the magnets are brilliant. They are really strong. So even though they are tiny, you might be thinking they're not very strong. They are really strong. Like I can actually lift the entire thing. Don't want to drop it on my glass mat, but nothing is holding that. That is just floating by me holding that one magnet. So they are really strong magnets, which is great to know. So they're going to hold like multiple layers down, I guess, as well. There's 4 layers of 300 GSM card there, and okay, I mean you can move it, but it's still holding the magnetic strength through that. So let's try 3 layers. Oh goodness, 3 layers. Yeah, it's definitely much stronger for 3 layers, but it would still hold 4 layers. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but you know, the magnetic power still works through at least 4 layers of 300 GSM card. So you can tell how strong they are, and even by that sound, they're really strong. I haven't checked to see if they'll clash together. No, they're opposite pole. Oh, well, they're the same pole, so they won't actually well, they go together like that, but they won't completely snap together and trap your finger in there, which is good. So that is brilliant. I think they might go together on top, yeah. So if you wanted to keep these, like say you wanted to slide the mat into, I don't know, where you've got your cardstock or something like that, you could actually then store all of the magnets together like this in a pen pot on your desk, or maybe you're crafting by a window and you've got the radiator there, you could put them on the radiator, or the angle beads around a window, you could put them on there to sort of keep them out of the way. But they're really lovely strong magnets, and they look like drawing pins without the pin, which is really cool. So they're very like aesthetically pleasing to look at as well. So those are the magnets, are showing you kind of like how strong it is between like holding through your cardstock and stuff. Let's have a look at the actual mat. So the mat gives you measurements of 12 inches across the bottom and 10 inches up the side, and you also have the centimetres as well. So you've got 25 centimetre ruler on this side and a 30 centimetre ruler on the bottom edge, and then on the other 2 sides, so along here and down here, you actually have the 0 measurement in the middle, so you can like centrally place your cardstock and stuff right in the centre of the mat, or any kind of batch making that you're doing, you can place your cardstock so you can perfectly line things up for multiple sort of sessions, which is great. It is a lovely metal. It's basically like a sheet of metal on here with all of the measurements on there. I think over time the measurements will scratch off a little bit, especially if you drag your magnets across the mat, but I think they're going to be pretty robust for now. But like just years down the line they might have worn off a little bit, but I mean I'm sure you could just draw things back on with a permanent pen if that does happen. And then on the back of it, it's just got like basically like a sheet of funky foam just to stop it from moving around. So if you put it on your glass mat, I mean, it moves a little bit, but it's not like crazy moving around as if it was like just a slick piece of metal on top of the glass, which is good. There is also a hole in the metal over here, but the foam hasn't got a hole in it, but I'm guessing they've done that. So if you like to store your mats, like your scoreboard and stuff, on a hook on your wall, or like on a hook on the side of your desk or something, you could actually just poke with your pokey tool through the foam, and then you could easily hang that up if you wanted to store it that way as well, which is brilliant. Because it's a metal surface, you can actually heat on this as well. I had a large panel on it yesterday of I scraped through expanding mousse, and I left it there to heat it, to just check that nothing would happen, and it is perfectly fine. Like, it's not loosened the adhesive of the foam on the back of the metal or anything. It didn't actually stay hot for too long either, which I thought was brilliant. I'm guessing maybe the foam kind of drew some of the heat out of it, but it didn't stay hot for too long, so that's really nice to know as well. And it is pretty sturdy. Like, I'm putting quite a lot of force on that, and it's not bending too much, so it is a pretty sturdy piece of kit to have as well. So that's kind of like all the basics of the mat, if you wanted to have just like a close-up look of what it looks like, because I know it's not easy to tell exactly what something looks like just from seeing the packaging on the website. Although they have done a nice representation of it here to sort of show you size comparison as well, because this is one of their, I think they're 6-inch square. They might be 7-inch square actually. Just seeing if I got one of those here. So the stencil that they've shown on the cover is actually, let's use the measuring guides on here, is actually like a 6 3/4 inch square kind of stencil. So that just gives you a size comparison, and if you already own one of their big stencils, you kind of visually in your head know exactly you know, how big it is compared to something you already own. And also, if you wanted a comparison against the mat, sorry if there's any mess on my desk, but if you wanted there's all sorts of mess over there, but if you want a comparison of like how big it is compared to your glass cutting mat, that's kind of the size of it. And if I put it this way, it's almost the same height as your glass cutting mat, and this one is exactly the same as the clear sort of glass one, that hasn't got the black on the back of it. So basically you could fit 2 of them on here, I think, if I hold my finger there. Yeah, it's basically half the size of your glass cutting mat if you've got one of the large ones, so that's quite a nice detail to know as well. So I thought I'd just do like one of these sort of experimenty videos where I literally just try it out and see what it's like, so that you can see like first impressions of doing stuff with it. So I have already tried the spray inks and the expanding mousse, so that would be a similar kind of concept for using your glimmer paste or the other types of mousse that they do as well, just embellishment mousse or crackle mousse. It's brilliant for that, holding it down. It holds down the card and the stencil really firmly so that you can scrape over it with your palette knife. I mean, you might be thinking, I usually hold a stencil and then scrape through with a paste or something, so you might be thinking, what's the benefit of having this kind of a platform? Because I know a lot of people actually tape their stencils down, so this kind of saves tape. You don't need to actually tape your card or your stencil to your surface when you're going to scrape stuff through, because the magnets are going to hold it in place for you. Plus, also for those of us who just hold a stencil in place rather than taping it, it's just taking that because I mean, sometimes you have to press you feel like you need to press really hard on your stencil, and it can like hurt your wrist and stuff if you're doing a lot of work. So having the magnets, it just kind of takes that pressure off that you have been exerting from your other hand holding it still. So it's quite nice for that sort of reason as well. And the magnets are nice and small, so they don't get in your way too much, which is really nice as well. So I thought I would just show you maybe with an ink blending tool first. So if I just take out a purple ink from here, I'm not sure how much juice is left in this one, and show you sort of how well it stays put. So I'm not going to hold the stencil at all, I'm just going to ink blend, and we'll see how well it stays put. So it does stay really well in place actually. I mean, I'll do a bit more and we'll take the stencil off to see if we've got like any double stenciling, if the stencil has shifted and I haven't noticed or anything. So you can do like the circular motion, and we'll also test like pouncing as well, just as like a different look. Okay, so let's see how well that held up to the force of kind of circular motions and just pouncing as well. So that's pretty good. You haven't got any sort of shifting of the stencil, and I didn't have to apply force to hold the stencil down. It was all just held for me, which is brilliant. So that is just using a normal generic mini ink blending tool, and going a circular motion or pouncing, and it holds the stencil absolutely perfectly, so you've got that gorgeous crisp stencil design on there. Then let's try with the brushes, because I like using the large Tonic blending brushes a lot, and I want to just see if if it's going to get in your way, really. Having the magnets there, I mean. You can tell how strong they are from the force to pull them off, but you can like drag them across to the edge if you couldn't pick them up, or if you actually pick them up when they're on your work, it's much easier to pick them up, obviously, because they're the force is kind of lessened from the substrates that it's going through. So I've got a distress ink here. I just prefer to use these large brushes with a large ink pad, just because it's easier. So I'm not using the Nouveau ink for any reason. I just find it's easier to use the large brushes with a larger ink pad. So the large distress inks or distress oxides tend to be my go-to for using these with. So again, the stencil is in place, and I'm not going to touch it while I ink blend. And we'll just see, because sometimes I put light pressure on brushes for ink blending, but sometimes you want a really heavy application, and you obviously do have to hold the stencil down quite firmly to stop it from moving, so that you can put the pressure on with the brush to get the darker kind of colour. So we'll just see if this is budged at all as I've been putting that pressure on. So that is lighter pressure and heavier pressure. Actually, you can see it has moved a teeny bit, but let's see what the result looks like. Yeah, so I did nudge it a tiny bit, but pretty good going, actually. I mean, I was pressing really hard with that brush, and it's only smudged a tiny bit, or only moved the stencil a tiny bit, although it's not actually that noticeable from far away. And if you were doing a cool technique, actually, you could just spray it with a little bit of water, and it could sort of feather out, and you wouldn't notice either. So that is basically, it will hold the stencil really nicely for normal ink blending with a large brush, but if you start putting really heavy amounts of pressure on it, it will wiggle a little bit, but it's not too bad though. It doesn't really move too much. And then I also thought I would just try out the normal like toothbrush style Nouveau brushes as well. So we can place that down and then just ink blend however you would with one of these brushes, whether you hold it up here or from back from the handle as well. And with these kind of brushes you can get right up to the magnets actually. I mean, it depends what size piece of cardstock you're working on or what size stencil. If you're working on a larger piece of card, you could put these magnets right at the edge of the stencil, and then you could easily get all of the corners of the design. Or if you're doing something like I am here, where I'm just using a smaller piece of card like I like to work on, pick that magnet up, move it over there, ink blend that corner, then put the magnet back on and move the next magnet. Whoops. Okay, so when you only have 3 magnets, it might slip slightly, but those 2 are still holding it down, so we can actually just replace that one, and it shouldn't have moved too much. Actually, even when you do that, you could just, instead of holding the cardstock as well, if we could leave the magnet on, but just holding the corner of the stencil, rather than actually taking it off the stencil as well as the cardstock. And because we've now put that onto there, we might have a little bit of ink on here, so I would recommend just using a bit of kitchen roll. There wasn't much ink on there, but I think kitchen roll is probably better than using a baby wipe or something, just in case you leave them wet, and then, you know, you might put a wet one down onto your project and then it might ruin it. So let's take this off. Okay, so I did completely smudge that because I took the magnet off the stencil and the cardstock, but leaving it on the stencil and just having the cardstock free works really nicely, and you can get right up to that corner as well then. So I think this is a brilliant work surface for anybody who struggles with having the strength to hold down that stencil while you're working, or if you just want a nice solid surface to work on. Actually, this might be nice to work on your lap. I reckon this has enough like non-bendiness to it that you could actually have this as your like work surface and rest it on your knee as you're working as well, and then everything you're working on wouldn't slide off because you can hold it down with the magnet. So that's another cool way you might want to use it. Also, another way I thought, I know this stencil is dirty now, so I might make a mess on the card with having the dirty stencil, but one thing I often forget to do with stencils, just because there's so many other cool different techniques that you can do, is to just draw through them. So what shall I draw through with? I'll just draw through with a pencil, but I thought it would be quite a nice way of holding down the stencil so that you can actually just draw through it and do your kind of like cool Zentangle designs within the shapes and things like that. I thought that would be a nice use for this platform for holding down stencils for things like this. And let's see, actually, if you remove 2 of the magnets, could you just lift that up? Yeah, you can, and check that whatever you're doing is right, and these are still holding it, which is nice. And actually, I should have done this before as well, because you only get 2 magnets with the platform. I will actually just show you ink blending just with the 2 magnets and see how that goes. So I want to make sure I'm holding the card and the stencil. And let's do it with the big brush again, and I'm not going to put excessive amounts of pressure on like I did before because it made it move. But if you were just doing your regular ink blending through a stencil, you just have the mat without the extra magnets, so you've just got the 2 magnets on there, and then we'll see how well this works without holding it. Obviously, as you're working, you might just want to have your hand there to hold it as well. It just depends how you like to work, really. I mean, stippling is obviously it's not gonna move as much if you just do the stippling motion, because you're just going up and down rather than sort of moving it to the side, but it's still holding it pretty nicely. That's not actually shifting the card and the stencil, it's just shifting the whole thing because of the pressure. But yeah, I think if you only get the platform just with the 2 magnets, it's still going to hold your work down pretty nicely when you're doing your ink blending as well with no hands. But obviously you might want to add your hand on there as well. So, but yeah, I think this is a really cool tool to have, and I think I'll definitely be keeping mine by the side of my desk so I can grab it whenever I'm doing some kind of stenciling, because you know, you have those days where your arm just hurts, like your wrist just hurts, or at the moment like here hurts on my hand. So it's quite nice to have something to help you hold your work or your stencil or your piece of card. Actually, it doesn't have to be a stencil on there, does it? I'm just sort of thinking in my head. Just if you're doing a generic ink blended background as well, let's try that with just the 2 magnets. Because on a day, again, well, yeah, because when you're just doing ink blending, you often have to put quite a bit of pressure, and you get the mucky prints, don't you? When you've already inked an area, you then get your fingerprints holding that down, and you can pull ink off. So this will actually stop that kind of thing happening. So actually, yeah, let's position this as if I was ink blending a piece of card. So when I'm ink blending a piece of card, I'm usually holding it here. So let's put them actually where I would hold it. And then I'm ink blending on this corner down here. So this is just like literally if you were ink blending your panel. Obviously I'd usually use a couple of colours, but I could get another purple ink out. But okay, so just ink blending like this. And then if I was actually, you know, holding the card down, just generally when I'm ink blending, I would then move my hand. I'd flip the card around just because I prefer working from this area. But then I would go to put my fingers on here or try and hold it just in one corner. But now we can put the magnets on to hold it down, and we're not going to get our fingerprints in there. And after I've ink blended this end, we'll see if the magnets have done anything to the cardstock or to our inked pattern on there. I'm not doing the best job of ink blending, but it's just a demonstration really. And actually, let's just show you ink blending with this tool as well. Okay, it does move around a bit more with this kind of a tool, so you probably would want your 4 magnets for if you like ink blending with these sort of tools, because you do tend to drag the card around a little bit more because of the foam kind of nature. And let's just try it with this kind of a brush as well, just to have tried everything. Yeah, see, these kind of ones you do apply a little bit more pressure, but still, if I was doing that holding it, it would still be wiggling around, because I can never completely hold it still, especially if you're just trying to hold one area so that you don't get too many fingerprints on it. Okay, so that's given everything a go at ink blending, and then let's see if there's any marks underneath the magnets. So I mean, maybe a tiny circle it's given, but not really actually. No, you can't actually see that. Yeah, so I think it's a brilliant tool for stopping getting your fingerprints on things, for not having to apply so much pressure with your hand to hold things down, to stay still. And I'm sure there's lots of other uses as well that obviously I just haven't thought of yet. I've just thought of something else though. Actually, let's try with this. Okay, imagine this is an intricate die cut that's probably bigger than this, but you know sometimes you want to colour them with a pen to change the colour of them. And you know, I mean I usually just sort of hold a tiny bit here, but again you're applying pressure that, you know, you might not have the pressure to be... Wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that to happen. I flicked that on the floor now. Okay, so we'll put the magnet on the tiniest little corner of that, and then let's get a pen. So then we can take a pen and it's going to hold it whilst we colour it in. So, I mean, I colour intricate die cuts a lot with this kind of technique, and sometimes it's difficult to get it to stay nicely. So if we then just move the magnet onto the other side, perfect. So you can easily colour your little die cuts, whether you use alcohol pens or watercolours or anything like that. You know, you can hold it down and then colour with that. And then also, I just thought, I've got a little bit of pen on there, let's add a bit more, and then I'll show you how you can get that off as well. So ink will just come off the surface either by itself, depending how pigmented it is, or a little bit of water will get the ink off of here. But you could also, oh yeah, you could also do the cool techniques. You could do the wrinkle-free kind of technique and just wet it and pick it up. It's a perfect surface for that because it beads up really nicely. I wasn't sure whether it would actually work for that kind of technique because it's a very slick kind of surface, but it does. So you can do that kind of technique as well, which I hadn't thought of showing you before, so that was good. And then, so yeah, like inky stuff, water-based inky stuff would just come off like that. I'll show you actually if you've been stamping on it and you've got some of your Nouveau hybrid ink on there too. Okay, it hasn't quite dried yet, but if I go like this, okay, it does all come off. If it was dried on there, it probably wouldn't come off. One sec, I'll leave that to dry and come back. It's not 100% dry, but it's dried a little bit that, you know, it's harder to get off just with a paper towel. So, anything like this, let's check how we can clean it. So, one way of doing it is to use your stamp cleaning solution. So if I just do that just down here, and then we can take our kitchen roll and I'll show you on half of that piece how we can remove the alcohol pens. So they will come off pretty nicely, and obviously ink will come off really nicely with a stamp cleaner because that's what it is designed to remove. But you can also use hand sanitizer to get anything off of your plate as well. So just do a tiny little blob, and then especially alcohol pens. This is how I clean my glass mat as well from when I've been using alcohol pens. Oh, wow. Okay. It hasn't actually got it all off, but the stamp cleaner did. That's good to know. So, best solution for cleaning this mat is the Nouveau stamp cleaning solution then, especially if you've been using alcohol pens on there. That's good to know. I'm glad I showed you that. I just thought that the hand sanitizer would work perfectly, but yeah, the stamp cleaning solution works better. And I've also just proved to you it's not going to remove the lines off of your mat as well, because I know some kind of mats and things, if you use certain products on them, the whole grid system will just rub off of the mat because you've used something solvent based, but that's cleaned it off absolutely perfectly. So that was good. Yeah, I'm glad I showed you that. So the best thing to clean it with is the Nouveau stamp cleaning solution, which pretty sure they've still got on their website. I've had this one since it came out, so I reckon that's been about 3 years or something, and I've still got half of it left. So this kind of bottle of solution does last a really long time, which is great, and I think it's only £4.99, so not too bad. And you might already have some stamp cleaning solution as well that you could use to clean your mat if you do use your alcohol pens and stuff on it. So I hope you enjoyed this, which was supposed to be a nice quick up close video, but I have a feeling I've rabbited on for a while because I kept thinking of different things to show you, but hopefully it just gave you a little bit of insight into what the magnetic platform's like, how strong the magnets are. I don't have any other ones to compare it to, but I just thought it would be nice to show you just sort of an up close look of what it's like, and the measuring system that's on it, how to clean it as well, and then like the power of the magnets for different types of ink blending and stuff on there. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful to some of you, and it's available to buy now if you did want to get one. So I'll leave the links below the video for you as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!